Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Aquaman, issue number 53, dated October 1970. This comic was a treat to read. This is one of those, it's so bad, it's good. And while the story itself makes no sense whatsoever, and it's a really badly written comic, nevertheless, it is impossible not to have fun with this. We see the cover. It looks like a catastrophe is going on in California, and it's asking the question, is California sinking? And basically we see a large number of people in some California neighborhood here, and basically they're being sucked into the sea as it looks like the ground mass is slowly sinking into the Pacific Ocean. Unfortunately, the people of California, Superman is a little busy. Martian Manhunter's a little busy. Even Batman's busy. He can't be bothered. So they sent out Aquaman to take care of this crisis. We see the cover. He is there helping one single resident, probably the hottest one there, which is probably why he's saving them. What's kind of funny is there's this little kid who's completely underwater, and he's looking up at Aquaman, almost like saying, hey, what about me? What about me? And Aquaman's like looking, sorry kid, you're just not hot enough. The story itself isn't foretelling climate change in any way. And as a kid of the 1970s, I don't recall anything in the popular media about California sinking. I mean, other than Lex Luthor's plan in the original Superman movie.
Where was I?
California.
California, right. The San Andreas Fault. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yes, it's the joining together of two landmasses. The fault line is unstable and shifting, which is why you get earthquakes in California from time to time.
Wonderful. Couldn't have said it better myself. Everything west of this line is the richest, most expensive real estate in the world. San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Everything on this side of the line is just hundreds and hundreds of miles of worthless desert land, which just so happens to be owned by
Lex Luthor Incorporated.
Now, call me foolish, call me irresponsible. It occurs to me that a 500 megaton bomb planted at just a proper point would
destroy most of California. Millions of innocent people would be killed. The West Coast, as we know it, would
fall into the sea. Bye-bye, California. Hello, new West Coast, my West Coast.
I'm assuming that at some point there was probably some speculation that the fault lines may give, because there were a lot of earthquakes in the 70s in California, but I can't recall any type of media driven stories about this actually happening. If anything, it's today it's Florida that's in big trouble in terms of this, not California. So I'm going to start with the story. We see the splash page. It's silently telling a story here. We see a young woman just going through her 9-to-5 job as a typist at some office building. Then we see a number of people noticing something, and they're hearing a tip-tap sound. And the water levels are increasing in this office. People are caught by surprise. I mean, this guy's like dropping what he just Xeroxed in the copier. Meanwhile, I see this very attractive brunette. She's still tapping away at that typewriter. So apparently this event is almost noiseless, because the tapping of the typewriter is sort of dominating the sounds in the office. Suddenly she looks up, she sees that her typewriter is basically underwater. She is quickly going underwater. She is surprised, and we see an image of her with a shocked face and seemingly drowning in front of us. And this is the splash page. And we're not told what the name of the story or the creative team is. We're told that on the next page. And the title of this is California Sinking. We see a very well-drawn image of the Golden Gate Bridge. And we see the creative team. And there's actually no names. It's just given as SAG, S-A-G, which I'm assuming is, the writer was Steve Skeets. And I really have to question how much he cared after he was told that this was going to be the last Aquaman story published. The art is by Jim Aparo. Jim Aparo put his heart out. Aquaman turned out to be a good assignment for him because it allowed him to practice and to sort of work on techniques that he would later use in bigger selling titles like the Batman titles that he worked on. And the G is Dick Giordano. He probably inked it. And yeah, so we're going to go into the story. We see this really beautiful house. Basically, this looks like a larger variation of the Brady house. If you ever watched the Brady Bunch and you've seen the classic home, this is just really a slightly bigger version of it. And it turns out that the owner of the home, he's having a meeting with two very kind of skeezy looking guys, sort of like guys who would you'd call them mobbed up. So anyway, what these gangster guys are telling him is that basically the mystics have predicted that the city of Atlantis will be rising from the sea. And once this happens, this will severely cause flooding issues in California. And it turns out that this man's house, who he, quote, spent millions on, might be endangered because of this ancient prophecy. This is the gist of the whole story. Is basically this, like, red cap MAGA America guy, this, the traditional middle-aged boomer, he's just screaming about his home and how much he put into it. And we see that with him is an attractive blonde, definitely not the wife. It doesn't turn out to be the wife. But nevertheless, I'm assuming she's there to fulfill those type of duties. And again, that's more issues with the writing. And we see this kind of very gangster-looking guy with the eyeglasses. Kind of gives a Steve Buscemi from Reservoir Dogs kind of feel. So anyway, what's going on is these guys are telling him this prophecy is going to happen. It's been predicted. The prediction was made 2,000 years ago, but hey, it's still holding. It's still holding. And well, he needs to protect his home. So what they're telling him is that, well, if you stop Atlantis from rising from the sea, your problems are solved. But the thing is, you'll need an A-bomb to do that. So this guy is being questioned about whether this rich MAGA guy is being questioned whether he can get his hands on an atomic bomb. Because that's sure to stop Atlantis from rising. And nevertheless, at this point, he should be throwing these guys out of his home and asking himself why he let them in the first place. But nevertheless, he goes along with this. This is the type of guy that loses their entire life savings to Nigerian scammers. Exactly that guy. We see the attractive young woman in the background. She's just taking in all this nonsense. But nevertheless, it's not nonsense to this guy. I'll find his name a little later. Harlan. His name is Harlison. It could be a play on words for Ellison Hardison, who is a writer. But anyway, Harlison, he's buying the wisdom of this ancient prophecy happening, that Atlantis will rise from the sea, and he agrees to go along with this plan. But the thing is the guys warning him. You would think they would be offering him the A-bomb, saying, Mr. Harlison, I know you're a rich guy, and rich people normally can get what they want, but maybe getting your hands on an A-bomb, it might be a little too much to ask of you. So we'll kind of supply it, for a small nominal fee that you would expect to pay for such a huge device. But no, they leave it to the pigeon to come up with the money and the know-it-all to purchase an A-bomb. But he's willing to do it. He needs to save that Brady Bunch home of his. Anyway, the two guys are talking. They think it's groovy. Specifically, they say groovy that he had bought their bullshit story, and they're really happy about the fact that he's going to go out there and buy a bomb. And it turns out that these guys are agents of a particular organization called Ogre. That's how the initials run out. And basically, their organization doesn't have the resources to get this atomic bomb to blow up Atlantis, where Aquaman is king. So basically, they're just tricking this guy and thinking that he's gonna have to know it all to do it. Again, this is bad criminal intent. I mean, at this point, whatever they're gonna get out of Harlan, you con him right there. You offer him that A-bomb. But no, this organization, they're all in on getting rid of Atlantis. They feel that Aquaman is kind of an intruder on their money-making operations, because as we know, the mob has tremendous amount of interest in what goes on under the sea. It looks like they're specifically targeting Aquaman. So they're going to destroy an entire civilization just to get one guy. And we're hearing about these hazy plans that this organization has. Before I get back to the story, there is one really nice ad here. It's an Aurora, kind of these plastic models. I had a couple of these as a kid. They were terrible models. The flimsiest of plastics, the most unsticking glue ever. But nevertheless, this is a beautiful ad here for some of the classic monsters, Universal Studio monsters. Same way we go back to the story. I'm assuming this is taking place. Oh no. I think the first part of this story with Harlan and these two guys from Ogre, I think that took place in California. That was probably San Francisco. But for some reason, they're dragging Harlan out to the Florida coast. So Harlan is concerned about his home on the East Coast, and he flew out all the way to the West Coast, to the East Coast, I'm sorry, to follow through with this plan, all to save his home. The agents from Ogre, they're asking whether Harlan has the bomb. Turns out Harlan did find a place that would sell him an atomic bomb. It was loaded on this submarine that Harlan had rented. You would think that something like that would be difficult to do, but when you look at guys like Stockton Rush from the Titan and that implosion, it's apparently kind of easy to find guys who are willing to do this. So anyway, the guys from Ogre, they're still questioning Harlan. They want to make sure that he has that bomb, and that he's going to drop it on Atlantis, and that it's going to kill Aquaman, and then apparently their crime organization will flourish. They're still talking, and apparently they're bringing in one of Aquaman's old foes, Black Manta. Black Manta was the villain in Aquaman 2, which is a pretty good movie. I recommend anyone to see Aquaman 2. But nevertheless, they feel like they have control of Black Manta, because normally would-be kingdom conquerors, they normally don't rent out their services to other organizations. But apparently Black Manta is doing this. He's doing this, I guess, contract job for Ogre. Of course, Ogre didn't tell him that, hey, that city you want to conquer under the sea, we plan on nuking it. And you're going to be well within the blast range. So that part they didn't tell Black Manta. But nevertheless, they did supply him with a weapon that they feel will be very effective against Aquaman. And basically, they're there to check on this investment. They have no intentions of going into the sea. But what they're going to do is they're going to just kind of hang around this dock, and they're just going to check the waves, literally. And that's how they're going to figure out, well, hey, did they drop the bomb or not? So anyway, we finally get our hero here, Aquaman. It turns out that Black Manta has contacted him, and I think it sounds like he's trying to negotiate a truce. So Black Manta is sort of creating this rouge to lure Aquaman in. I don't think Aquaman's fooled about it. He isn't fooled by this. And then suddenly we see Black Manta coming out of his ship, and then he's letting them know that, that listen, that was a rouge, and I'm here to attack you, and I got a weapon that can take care of that. So what's happening is that Aquaman, rather than going out and confronting Black Manta himself, he's going to enslave whatever fishes are around, and he's going to use his telepathic powers to attack Black Manta. So he's like, good luck dealing with all these sea creatures that I'm mindlessly enslaving, as if being a fish isn't a horrible life in and of itself. But I've enslaved these creatures. I've asked them to sacrifice their lives for the very species that fillets them. So, Aquaman here, he has no conscience about, sacrificing these fishes. Black Manta, he's still kind of gloating here, letting him know, hey, this one single weapon that I got will take care of everything. So Aquaman's a bit suspicious of this, because he normally knows Black Manta is someone who's somewhat cautious and can deliver the goods. So anyway, Aquaman, he's still trying to figure things out. He doesn't really want to deal with Black Manta one-on-one. So again, he contacts the fishes and various other sea creatures who feel an urgent need to attack Black Manta. I would think that, hey buddy, food. But no. However, Black Manta, he unleashes the weapon that he has on the fish. So as they're kind of charging forward toward him, they're caught in the ray, and they immediately disperse into all different types of direction. And Aquaman's noticing that his telepathic hold on these poor unfortunate creatures doesn't exist, and they're basically running away when in fact they were supposed to directly head to Black Manta. So then Black Manta, he's giving away what this weapon does. And basically what it does is that it scrambles brain waves, human and fish. So basically what Black Manta plans on doing, if Aquaman is close enough or in range, he's going to blast him with this weapon. He won't have the brain power or the brain capacity to basically do anything other than being a babbling idiot. And that's, hey, that's Black Manta's words. And Black Manta, he's backed up by a small squadron of men who are also coming out, bottom of the ocean sea, no problems whatsoever with scuba diving. And then we see Aqualad, he's looking at things, he's taking in what's going on. Aquaman's thinking to himself, he's like making the executive decision for both himself and the entire kingdom. And he feels that the Black Manta is a real threat to pull off what he wants. And he's thinking that his own telepathic abilities will basically save him from the effects of this ray. So he's kind of betting on his own brain to bail him out here. So anyway, Aquaman, he decides that it's better for him to go out there alone, and to do so before he starts entering the city. Aquaman, he's on an intercept course, heading for the Black Manta. Black Manta sees him, and they're all ready, for a fight. It turns out that now, while this is going on, the submarine is heading toward those coordinates of where Atlantis is. We could see Harlison. He's being a brainless buffoon. I know, like, in American culture and American media, there's this really kind of stereotypical view of business people, particularly businessmen, as these kind of like no nonsense, get things done, totally cool headed guys. And no, most of them are cranks like this clown, honestly, to be truthful. So I do want to congratulate the writer for demonstrating a site that we normally don't see in popular media. That's the buffoon businessman. So anyway, he's still bitching. He's bitching about his home. He's doing this all to protect the property values of one single home. And then we go back and we see Aquaman. He's about to encounter Black Mantis. Black Mantis tells his men to stay back. He wants this mano-a-mano thing going on. Black Mantis fires the weapon at Aquaman, and it is a direct hit. And Black Manta, he's expecting Aquaman to behave like a blithering idiot, as he says. But that doesn't happen. Aquaman is still on intercept course against Black Manta, and he just slugs him right there. So, looks like Aquaman was able to beat that, the effects of the ray. Before we get back to the story, take a look at this other ad. It's a bunch of records, but it's based on like radio or TV broadcasts of various sports teams. I absolutely would have loved this as a kid at this time. And then we see Aquaman. He slugs Black Manta. He's thinking to himself, because he can't speak, so he can't think out loud. And he's basically crediting his own brain as being able to counteract the effects of that ray. Black Manta is giving the order to kill Aquaman. However, Aquaman grabs Black Manta by the arm, basically threatening to rip it off. at this point. So this is Aquaman being a little badass here. Meanwhile, never mentioned the art's really good here. Jim Aparo did an excellent job. So so Aquaman's letting it be known that hey, that rule against torture, that only applies when I'm on the surface. When I'm with the Justice League. Down here, torture is fine. However, Black Manta, he can't give an order. But what happened was that Aqualad had taken some, I guess, Atlantean security guards with him, and they found Aquaman's coordinates. And Aqualad, being a good number 2, being a good wingman, he takes at least Black Manta's men out of the equation. Aquaman is thanking Aqualad. Meanwhile, we're going back to the submarine, as again they're at the bottom of the sea because submarines can just handle that. And we see that Harlison, the businessman, he's getting more and more impatient. And the submarine captain is saying, we're close, don't worry. Okay. So then what happens is that Black Manta and Aquaman, they're sort of having it out in terms of, okay, spill what you know, tell me everything. It turns out that Black Manta, he kind of has some buyer's remorse here, because he bought into Ogre's plan. He allowed himself to be contracted out as basically a common criminal. This is not the actions of a world conqueror. He's whining, he's whining about a criminal organization that they weren't honest with him. I mean, really, this is like mafia guys whining about when their bosses betray them. Are you really surprised that happens? But we see here that Aquaman, Aqualad, they're listening to what Black Manta has to say. Again, Aquaman's being a little badass here, kind of grabbing the air hose to Black Manta's suit, making it clear that he'll pull them. And then Aquaman delivers a pimp slap. Oh man, the difference between Aquaman under the sea and above the sea is like night and day. So anyway, basically, Aquaman just basically pimp slaps Black Manta, saying that listen, it was an agent of Org or something like that, because when Black Manta agreed to do this, took this powerful weapon, he didn't actually bother to do a background check on the people who are contracting him. We see the submarine, and it's getting closer and closer to Atlantis. Apparently, Aquaman is familiar with this organization called Ogre. And he didn't think that they had the balls for this. As in, I don't know where they got the money, I don't know where they got the contacts, and frankly, I don't know where they got the balls to try to pull this off. So he's a little surprised by this. And then Aquaman, he has an idea. He asks Aqualad to watch over Manta. So Aqualad is the one with the this kind of like mind scrambling gun, and he's gonna hold Black Manta in place as Aquaman is basically swimming off, really without giving too much information to Aqualad. Aquaman, he figures out that this is a bigger scheme. So he's guessing at this point that Black Manta and what he did was really just kind of a ruse, and that Atlantis is probably the main target. So Aquaman returns to Atlantis. Everything looks fine to him at this point. Kind of looks like he's flying over the city. We go back to the dock where those two agents from Org are. They're noticing this very calm, quiet water. They're not noticing any big, large explosions coming out of it or it changing another color. But nevertheless, this is how they're going to monitor the success of their plan. And it turns out that as these two agents are talking, they're stopped by two other men, well-dressed men, and it looks like they're government agents. So they're part of obviously a law enforcement agency. They track down these two agents, and they're in a gunfight on the dock here. So there's a lot going on in this story. It looks like the agents are winning out. The agents from Org, they realize they're in deep trouble. One of them says, "We can't afford to be taken. We're wanted for everything, from genocide to jaywalking." So these guys, they're a small organization, but they got their thumbs in a lot of crimes here. And also the bullets from the agents are coming closer and closer. So it looks like they're outgunned. However, the agents from Org, it looks like one of them was going to fight back. However, he's nicked in the arm, so that kind of takes the fight out of him. One of the agents, he takes credit for that. He takes credit for that bullet. The other agent says, "Hey, don't get cocky, kid." Just like from that scene in Star Wars, the agents are given the ultimatum, just give up. You have no way of getting out of this. So the uninjured agent from Org, he comes out, and basically the government agent lets the bad guy know what they know. And what they know is that this organization was looking for an atomic bomb. And we were watching them. We didn't know how they would go about it. Because rather than actually getting the money themselves, they sort of had to kind of pull this other scam that, was completely separate from what they were doing. And however, he's saying, listen, it was a little bit more than that. We actually have the bomb. We have it activated. Our stooges who don't know anything, nevertheless, are going to do our dirty work. So he knows he's going to jail for a long time, to prison, I should say, for a long time. But nevertheless, him sticking it to Aquaman, it's all worth it. So then we go back under the sea. We see Aquaman. He sees the submarine. He sees that it's heading for Atlantis. He's on intercept course at this point. Now, he doesn't know why the submarine's here. He's saying it might be a coincidence, but I can't take that chance. And so what he wants to do is he wants to stop the submarine from approaching the city. But at the same time, he also wants to know what the hell they're doing, which means that, this submarine can't implode. So then Aquaman uses his telepathic abilities. He goes deep in the ocean, and he commands a giant squid to come forward. And the squid is on intercept course with the submarine. And apparently there are windows in this submarine, just like the Titan submersible. And they see this giant squid coming for them. Then Harlison is like, he needs to be in control. And he needs to believe that he's smarter than everyone around him. So he tells them to pull up, as if they didn't figure that out already. And the captain is telling him, listen, we're doing that already. However, the giant squid grabs the submarine. It has a grasp on him, and the submarine is caught at this point. Harlison is throwing a shit fit. He wants to know he's leveraging his wealth here, so he's using his wealth privilege to the max. However, this fool doesn't realize that at some point there is no wealth privilege, and so he's calling the captain an imbecile. If only people listen to me. That's kind of what Harlison is doing. The captain is saying, listen, we can't move. The squid's holding us too tightly. We've been stopped. Harlison can't believe that they've been stopped. He has his girlfriend there, his lady, and his lady is telling Harlison to kind of calm down and relax here. However, Harlison is throwing his shit fit. He's calling people stupid. And he lets them know that God damn it, that fucking house of mine, we're doing all this for that house. And it's just insane here at this point. The captain notices that there's something wrong. Oh yeah, what happened is that Harlison, I should say, he hit some type of lever as he was throwing his temper tantrum. And apparently, that was the lever to drop the A-bomb. And this is what Harlison is asking. He's asking, what does that lever do? Then Aquaman notices a bomb coming from the submarine, and it's heading right for Atlantis. And before we go back to the story, here we see an ad for Clark bars. This is a baseball-related one. I would have loved this. I love this that the Mets have world champs above it. Okay, go back to the story. Harlison can't believe that the bomb was actually let go, because they're still stuck, being held captive and in place by this giant squid. So the captain is basically saying, listen, we're too close to the bomb's radius, and we're probably going to get fried. Mind you, this idiot captain entertained the idea of using an H-bomb with the idea that they would be able to get out in time. So this captain, he's just as complicit as Harlison, and again Harlison's making the demand that the submarine move. The captain's saying, "Listen, moron! I told you there's a giant squid holding us in place." Harlison breaks down. He starts crying. He starts realizing the gravity of his situation. He feels that he's too rich to die, that he just has so many dollars, and he just won't have time to spend it. Although guys like Harlison tend to be real cheapskates, so they just end up hoarding their money for the rest of their lives, and they obsess over their marginal tax rates. However, Harlison's, I guess, mistress, you could say, she's not that. We find that out later on. She's telling him, listen, calm down, remember your ulcers and stuff like that. Harlison rightly points out that he's not really concerned about his ulcer. And he's calling her stupid. To a degree, he's kind of right. It's kind of like when a building is burning, you don't worry about the fire department flooding the basement at that time. You take care of the fire. So, nevertheless, the two are arguing. The bomb is still heading toward Atlantis. Aquaman is getting closer and closer to it. So this is sort of like the kind of like the finale of Moonraker, where James Bond was kind of like chasing that last missile.
It's entering the Earth's atmosphere. James, this is our last chance.
Steady.
And we see here Aquaman. He's kind of he knows the consequences of what will happen. Aquaman. He's swimming faster and faster. Some really nice artwork by Jim Aparo here. There's a lot of kinetic energy from this. So even if you don't necessarily think it's very well drawn, nevertheless, there's still it's very energetic art here. And then it turns out that Aquaman is too late. He's too late to stop the bomb. The bomb hits the bottom of the ocean. And it kind of goes tap, tap, tap. And it just kind of bounces along, but there's no explosion. Aquaman is kind of questioning that because he was expecting a big, boom. And it turns out that the people in the submarine, they figure it out. The captain's like, hey, that atomic bomb, it was kind of a dud. It totally caught me by surprise. But hey, it happens when, people sell you like atomic bombs. Harlan he processes the information that it was a dud. He's absolutely livid at this point. How dare he be sold some fraudulent trinket? He was expecting an A-bomb. He was expecting to go. He's still with us, unfortunately, in this world. But nevertheless, rather than being happy, he's obsessing over whether he got ripped off or not. He's vowing revenge. He looks a little like Adolf Hitler from the way that this is inked and drawn. The girlfriend is just saying, listen, just cool it, relax, we're alive. Try to appreciate that as much as you appreciate hoarding your money. And before I go back to the story, we have the letters page here. And this is the last issue. And I guess they wanted to put in as much art as possible, so they didn't want to give the letters page a full page of content. The letters were positive. The first one is by Jonathan. He's actually a student at Berkeley, and it's pretty prestigious. He says that he previously would ignore Aquaman. He kind of finds it like kind of a kiddie character, but because they've been using Neil Adams' artwork in the Dead Man stories that were kind of like the secondary stories of this title, kind of brought him in. He read the Aquaman stuff. He says it was really good. Kind of have to question that reading this story. And nevertheless, yeah, he has a very positive view. He has very positive things about Jim Aparo. Again, he's noticing that Jim is sort of like experimenting and taking some chances, with his artwork here. Second letter is, again, a very positive about the Aquaman story. And they also mentioned the Neil Adams Dead Man. Yeah, he likes them both. And and they're like, hey, the editors are like, hey, great. I'm glad you like this comic that we're dumping here because no one's buying it. And the last one is, a very positive breakdown of the Aquaman story, issue number 51. Okay, so I guess they're kind of leaving on a high note here. Okay, and before we go back to the story again, we see kind of a census here. And I'm assuming this is sort of a questionnaire that their marketing team wanted, because I think from what I understood, DC really didn't have a firm grasp of its market. and who they should market to, because comics were strange, because you had, like me, I was buying comics at 5-6 years old, and there were guys who were 25, 26, and they were buying the same comic books I was. And I guess the companies had a hard time. Should we cater to these little shits, or should we cater to the college kids? So they wanted to get a good grasp of their marketing. And we see some of the questions. They ask, where did they get the comic? I usually got it from the newsstand. But apparently there are other places like drugstores, or you got it from a friend or enemy. So, yeah, they don't care. And they asked about the parents. Did the parents buy it, or did you buy it yourself? I always picked my comics. My mom hated comics, but she would indulge me. But I always got to pick it. How many do you buy a month? Probably when I was a kid, probably 10 or more a month. What did you do with your free time? And you kind of want to know how many hours you did. How much TV you watched? Did you read a magazine? Did you listen to records? Read a book? Go to a movie? Read a comic book? Play sports? My hobby is. So they want to get an idea of how they spend their recreational time. Then this is a little controversial. They're asking about various interests. And they want to know from a scale from I'm very interested to fairly interested to I am not interested. And these are the choices. Pollution. The other one is black people. Okay. Space flights. National problems. City problems. Sports. And then you're supposed to list the sport. Hobbies, romance, astrology. So you want to see if they can do more relevant stuff, I guess. What is your favorite kind of comic? It was definitely superhero. I've been reading the romance comics now, but before I would never read them. War, I read a couple war ones. They were fine. I never really cared too much. I wasn't a mystery guy, actually. And the humor books, yeah, I would buy Mad Magazine. How would you like to get your comics? Would you like a subscription? Or the same way you get them now? I would prefer buying them off the newsstand. What are your two favorite... Oh, they're going to ask you what do you like for breakfast? They want to see whether it's worth advertising with the... on a cereal box. What kind of records do you like? Yeah, probably rock, bubblegum music, yeah. Rock and bubblegum music I listen to too much of. Soul, I would listen to soul too. When do you like to watch TV the most? I would have to check all 4 boxes. I watched way too much TV as a kid. What TV programs do you like best? Cartoons, that's an easy one. My favorite TV show is, at this time, I'd probably put, at close to this time, a few years later, like 72, I put Sandy Duncan show. What do you think of the ads in the, unless something's really ridiculous, I could care less about them. I guess they want to know how interested the readers actually are in those ads. Do you buy things advertised in comics? Yeah, it's a fair question to ask. That's for the sales team, I guess. Comics have helped me in. I don't think any of the comics helped me in any way academically. Let's see, what kind of sports equipment do you own? I probably own a baseball glove. That's probably it. They're asking the age, boy, girl, how much, what's your allowance, and how you spent your allowance. These questions might be a little too intrusive for this type of census. I think what they're doing is that if you submitted any questions, you'd be put in a lottery and you could win a TV set. All right, so we'll see what's going on with the story. Okay, so we have an epilogue. So all the major events have just happened. So this is the wrap up. So Aquaman and Aqualad, they're meeting up with two government agents on the dock, and they're basically just wrapping up the rest of the story. The agents are happy because they were able to track down Org's secret headquarters. So this organization is kind of defunct at this point, like the comic book. So they're saying, listen, it's just a mop-up job for us at this point. They're not going to be bothering you. We decapitated that beast. And Aquaman does ask about that idiot business owner, Mr. Harlison. Basically, they said they let him go. Apparently, he did not break any laws in pursuing the purchase of an A-bomb and actually using the A-bomb just off the coast of Florida. Apparently, that was not a crime. And as far as they're concerned, he was an innocent victim because he was duped. That is wealth privilege. That is wealth privilege when you can get government agents to believe this guy is a total moron, but all his stupid decisions are really him being duped. So he's really not that dumb. This is how much they worship businessmen. And then Aquaman doesn't understand one thing. He mind you, he's okay with this, with the laws being this way. He doesn't understand why the bomb was a dud, and he doesn't know whether they got lucky or whether there was something else going on. But it turns out that there was a inside agent who had infiltrated Harlison's operation. I guess his criminal desires to have a bomb, and it turned out it was his girlfriend. And I'm going to go straight to the back. And then it turned out that she was a government agent, and she basically, once she found out that Org was going to target Harlison, she made a play to be Harlison's mistress, so she can be there while the Org agents were kind of like trying to corrupt Harlison into their scheme. That is so ass backward. And good luck believing any testimony from an agent who would kind of do something like that, considering that you figure that dirty old man wanted at least a handy every night, if not more. So anyway, the agents, they're still talking to Aquaman. Basically, the female agent, she messed with the bomb, so she was able to deactivate the atomic bomb here. Although she still left the mechanism for it to be dropped, intact, just to keep her covered. There was nothing going to happen with that. So everything wraps up. Nothing makes sense, but everything's wrapped up. They're asking about Black Manta. It turns out that Aquaman let him go. He said that the humiliation that Black Manta went through of basically being the biggest chump in the sea was enough punishment. So Aquaman's saying, listen, if he bothers me again, I'm going to clown him about this. So in knowing what a proud guy he is, I'm going to count on that to take care of Black Manta. Aquaman and Aqualad, they swim back to Atlantis. Aqualad is bringing up a subject to Aquaman, saying basically that there are people talking that Atlantis may rise from the sea. And if it does rise, would we be considered a continent, and then we would have to be a part of the surface world? And he's also asking how the people of Atlantis will handle being surface dwellers, or if they could adjust to being surface dwellers. Because I don't know Aqualad's story, but I know that he's a part of the Teen Titans, so he spends a lot of time on land. So does Aquaman when he's with the Justice League. But anyway, Aquaman's saying, listen, we don't have to worry about that stuff at least until the year 2000. So they were trying to kick the can like 30 years. But it's been 50 years since this comic came out. Meanwhile, there is one thing. Even though the title is called Is California Sinking?, there was very little time spent in California. However, we see a repeat of some of the earlier panels of that young secretary drowning, and it ends with the title, Is California Sinking? So they're sort of trying to create this kind of pseudo cliffhanger here. And I think, yeah, that's it for this story. It is a fun read. It's batshit crazy. It makes very little sense. But this seemed like a real comic book, a real battle, rather than, say, that issue of Superman where he was fighting against Star Sapphire. That seemed more like a bunch of kids like playing imagination games. But this actually did seem like an out-and-out superhero fight. So I recommend reading this issue, if nothing else, just to see how batshit crazy a story can be. So that is my review of Aquaman 53, and I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.